This is the Forepeak, and this is where we keep all our paint store and all our kit and equipment, and we've also got a small workshop down there. You can see the access ladder down. Swinging round onto the port side, we have the bosun's locker, which we've adapted for the paint store, and we've got a lot of kit and equipment in there. There's a tow rope for towing ships should we require it. A lot of old fittings, but a lot of kit and equipment stored in there. As you can see, we've even got new anodes should we require them. Back out of there, we've got the main panel for the anchor winch. Then I made a storage cabinet for various bits and pieces, which we've ended up using for fuel carriers. You can never have enough fuel. Down underneath, that's access to the anchor chains, that's the anchor locker. Swinging over to the starboard side now, we've got a lot of storage and containers there for plumbing equipment, electrical equipment, nuts, bolts and washers, and again more fuel storage. A compressor, and of course a little workbench with a work drill and a grinder. We've got our own little power supply in here, and there's a 3-phase motor control power supply ready for the bow thruster that we're going to fit later in the year. This is the access to the engine room. Standard lockable waterproof door. We're going to have a look now down in the engine room. Starting off up the top, this is where all the electrical controls are, switches for the fans and equipment. I've actually installed a separate single-phase shore power system to avoid us having the main 3-phase system connected. There's the emergency 110 volt navigation light system that we can use should we require it, which is just a basic 110 volt transformer. Fuse board there, which feeds the power supplies to the engine room. Over there is the main header tank for the stern tube. Swinging round, this is the main exhaust supply for the main engine, and of course the main generator. There over on the starboard side where the port light is, that's the tank we use to store our oil, which is the engine oil, the main engine oil. And this tank here is the 750 litre day tank. And of course down below we have the strainers, and there on the bottom is the freshwater tank which feeds the main engine. Access ladder down into the engine room, are at the bottom of the stair into the engine room. On the starboard side of the engine room, this is the main engine. As you can see, Blackstone, Lister Blackstone, 330 horsepower, turbocharged, 4-cylinder, gives us a comfortable 10 knots at 600 revs. We'll of course rev to 750, and that'll give us 12 knots. But of course the fuel consumption at 12 knots is considerable. We can get about 40 litres an hour at 10 knots, which is comfortable. Down there is the oil system. This feeds the main engine. Dry sump system, so we can check the oil much easier. There is the pump systems for the freshwater and the diesel transfer pump. Over on the extreme starboard side, that's the freshwater pump, and below it of course is the fuel oil diesel transfer pump. Coming round now, still on the starboard side, here we have the main generator. This is a 140 horsepower 6-cylinder Perkins driving a 50 kilowatt 3-phase generator. There's the main panel. which we control the systems with. Down below it is a emergency pump for the gearbox should we require it. Moving further towards the stern, there's the water pump. That's the auxiliary bilge and fire pump, which also will fill the ballast tanks if we require. Here we have the steering control system. This is the hydraulic pump system. There's the switch gear there. So that gives us our power steering. More valves, which this particular valve allows us to run the main generator. There's a valve chest which controls all the systems, which we can change over to fire pumps, bilge pumps, whatever we require. Now we're coming round to have a look towards the stern. This is the new electric propulsion drive system which I designed and installed. As you can see, the chains are still connected because I've been testing the remote control in the wheelhouse. Little workbench there. Just above it is the 440 volt AC control panel for the electric auxiliary drive. There's my control panel for the little generator that I installed, fuel tank, and there over on the port side our little 10 kilowatt Kubota generator. We can run the ship on this. We're a bit cautious about using all the power, but it runs the ship perfectly well. Just in front of that, as you can see, we've got a Curtis 3-phase art charger. Here's the mirrorless Lister Blackstone Marine gearbox. This is a 2-to-1 ratio gearbox. Gives us plenty of torque. There's a small bilge pump, hand pump. Tool chests and the main electric 24 volt supply system that runs the starter motor. Now we're coming round onto the port side. This is the main panel, the electric 3-phase main panel, which houses everything from 3-phase supplies, 240 volt supplies to 24 volt supplies. This particular ship, we generate our own power from transformers. So we start off with 3-phase and we generate down to 240 volt, and of course we've got battery supplies which are over there on the end of the panel. That's our main battery box. This is the supply, power supply to start the engine starting system. Down on the bottom is the fans, control systems, contactors, and now we can swing round and have a look at the main engine. Here's the control system where we've got all our gauges. As you can see, we've got a backup standard Navy system whereby it can be controlled from the engine room and the bridge. And there's the control. There we have Lister Blackstone Mirrorless Marine. Swinging round now, you can see that's turbocharger there. And a view back towards the stern